Okay, now we're live. Hello and welcome everybody to Nostalgia Train Book Club live discussion on Cirque du Freak, A Living Nightmare by Darren Shan. I am Violet. My channel is Writing Violet, and I started this crazy book club where we could read YA middle grade books from the past and dissect them as writers in a fun, silly way. I will let my lovely co-hosts introduce themselves.
Hi, I'm Crystal. My channel is Crystal's Cluster, where I do a bunch of writing stuff, gaming stuff, and occasionally I'll do the D&D stuff too, even though my character's dead and I have no idea what to do. I write vampire, modern, paranormal fiction, sort of witches and vampires and werewolves and chaos, and it's great!
And my name is Marta. You can find me on the Marta Can Pixel in most places, and I make videos about art and writing, and occasionally about other things, such as tomorrow. Looking forward to that going up tomorrow. May or may not be dinosaur related. I'm not saying anything else.
Ooh, okay.
And I write fantasy.
I'm proud to say what I write. I write young adult, fantasy, and rom-coms. So, as we get started, I just wanted to talk about our experience with this book before, because I know Crystal and I have quite a lot of nostalgia going into this one. So I think I read these books. I got introduced from my oldest brother, not my middle brother, the one who spoiled me on Harry Potter and turned me off Aragon. My other brother, my cool brother, introduced me to these books. I guess a couple years after they were published, because I looked it up. And the first one was published in 2000. So I was like right middle school age, perfect age for this book. And yeah, I never finished the whole series, but I have a lot of love for this series. Crystal?
Yeah. So I'm being like auditorily distracted by the storm that's currently going on out there. I same-ish story. Like I think I have up to book 6. So it was when book 6, I think it was book 4 came out. I got them all as a gift from my godmother, who is the most amazing woman ever. She found out I like reading scary books, so she got me a whole bunch of scary books. Goosebumps. And this was in the pile to the point where when I opened them up at Christmas, the only thing I was willing to do was read.
Aww,
and I'm kind of in love with them.
Aww.
My very, very first vampire books ever.
I think me too. But Marta, you were new to the series, right?
Yes, my only experience with this book was that one time I saw it in a bookshop, and I actually thought that bit at the back sounded really interesting. And then I turned it around and noticed that the name of the author was the same as the name of the character. And I thought, oh, that's pretty vain, and I put it down and I left.
Oh yeah,
so
we're definitely gonna talk about that. Okay, we have comments. We have people.
Yay!
Marta is relishing in power. Danny is here. Hello, and Anna. Anya.
I'm just gonna keep waving.
I gotta close the window.
Dinos. Okay. Oh, I can hear the rain in the background now. Before I couldn't hear it. Anna's here for all the dinos. And Anya says, I haven't heard of these books before, the Nostalgia Train Book Club. Yeah, I was totally biased with this one. It was one of my favorites. So I am going to actually put up the spoiler ticker, because we're definitely going to be discussing spoilers in this entire discussion going forward. So, but before, I kind of want to put a little bit of caveat if people have seen the movie Cirque du Freak, or it's actually called The Vampire's Assistant. I have the movie tie-in cover on my book. My stupid webcam is definitely not going to like this. But yeah, it was one of the worst film adaptations, so I would not consider this an adequate representation to the book at all.
The movie does not make me mad, I swear, on many levels.
I did a little bit of research to why they did it like they did, because they really mashed up some plot points from the first 3 books. It's because they only had the rights to the first 3 books, and that's also why there was never a sequel.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Oh, that's actually what I wanted to do, just a little bit of introduction about the series. I already mentioned it was published in the year 2000, and it has gone on to be quite popular. I think kind of a little bit almost like a cult classic between like young kids.
Yep.
It was published in 33 different countries in 30 languages, and it was also turned into a popular manga series. So
I want to look at the manga. I've never really looked at manga before, and I kind of want to look at the manga.
okay, I got a treat for you. My version has a sample of the manga in the back.
Of course, yours is the cooler copy.
Well, first it has like a guide of how to read manga for idiots.
Yes, I need this.
So, and then it has, is it gonna show
Oh my goodness.
some of the manga? Yeah. So it has like a few scenes in the manga. Very cool, actually.
Oh, that is dope. Hey, I have a neat too. You know how technically you had like 3 covers on your Instagram story of which ones are the cool covers? This is a different one as well.
Oh, I saw that one, but it was quite similar.
Because it's instead of the face, it's the kid running away. I'm like, so many covers.
So many. That's why I had to do a bracket for Cover Wars, because there were so many covers. It was crazy. And there's even more. I just tried to narrow it down to some of the most popular ones. Ooh, I might have to pick up the manga of it.
Me too. Pick up the rest of the series.
Yeah.
And the manga.
What did I want to start with? Okay, so yeah, that was the main gist of it, and it ended up being a 12-book series. I think I ended up stopping around book 10 in the series. I think there was 3 that I sort of aged out of. So the first thing I really wanted to discuss was sort of the introduction and the hook, because I think this book has a great example of sort of a first line and opening pages that really like sets a tone and an atmosphere. I know, Crystal, you shared some of the introduction in your video that you did.
Yeah.
But I mean, the first line of this introduction is, "I've always been fascinated by spiders."
It's like, no.
Yeah, I don't know. It does something so. I don't know. It's simple but so effective, because spiders is something that people are usually really afraid of.
Yep.
And I mean, Darren kind of goes on to talk about, how he would collect them and unleash them in his room, and it's just really kind of creepy.
Yeah.
And I don't know. It really pulls you in that first page.
Oh, yeah, there was something so visceral about just his entire introduction, starting from like, yeah, I'm a kid who likes spiders, and also life sucks, and this is life. Good luck.
Yeah.
It was actually one of my favorite introductions of most of the books I've read, and I'm not the target audience.
Okay, I have a little bit of a confession, kind of like what Marta brought up, that, the author and the character have the same name. And, and he kind of goes on and claims, like, this is a true story. This really happened. And I'm going to be totally 100% honest. As a kid, I believed it.
Me too.
I had debates with my brother, because he was older than me, and he was always 2 or 3 books ahead of me in the series reading, and I was like, it's totally real, and he was like, Violet, it's not. Like, it's not. And I'm like, but it could be.
It's like, come on, you don't know. It could be just a secret, and nobody wants that information out. Like, come on.
It's somehow subtly genius to say, like, oh, this is a true story, and because, like how Marta pointed out, the names match. It's like, oh, well, obviously.
Yeah.
I am curious about that. Is that the writer's real name, or is that like a pen name or something?
It's a shortened name.
Yeah,
his real name is what? O'Shaughnessy.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was looking at it going, I'm not going to try to pronounce that. Thank you very much, and have a great day.
Yeah, as a kid, I just thought like, oh, he stole his own name for the character. That's just vain. I'm not reading that.
Oh, that's so funny. What is Danny saying? I believed it was real for like the first 2 books, and then it got too much for little Danny to believe it.
That's fair.
Aww.
It's kind of amusing, because I see when I was rereading it, I noticed how much influence like the beginning of my writing was, because I was writing kind of like the exact same style because I thought what he did was super cool. So I'm going to write like a post-journal, first-person adventure of this one. And yeah, no, it's the writing's on the walls here, folks.
Yeah, I definitely see that. I also took some influence from this. Reading it back, I was like, oh, okay. I definitely could feel that I picked up some things from reading this. And also, yeah, just the love of vampires and the paranormal. I think as an adult, sometimes I forget about these childhood favorites, and I'm like, oh, I just liked paranormal because of Twilight. But it's like, no, I was into this stuff before.
Yep. Yep. Older me thinks it was Underworld that came first. And then now I'm realizing, no, it was Shan. It was Shan all along.
Yeah. The other thing in here is he talks about like, oh, all the names were changed for secrecy, and I'm not even going to tell you where this is. Which, okay, it's obviously in the UK or in Ireland. Even I have the American version. I don't know which versions you guys have. But it's like, even with the like American translated words, like switching like football to soccer and things like that, it's still so like reeks of the UK. Like, I don't know, it just...
Really?
Yes!
I did not pick up on that at all.
Do you have the UK version, Marta?
I honestly don't know. I just picked up the first one I saw on Kindle.
Mm-hmm.
I guess it's really just because I'm used to
Oh,
the UK.
I can ask you right away, how much did the ticket to the Freak Show cost? Because in the US version it's $23, and in the UK version it's £15. I double checked it because
US version.
I think it might have been £15 actually. Yeah.
Yeah, I have the US version then.
Yeah, because I definitely made a note. I went back to check the UK version to check on some of those details because I'm nerding out a little bit.
Well, like even as he was hinting, like, I'm not going to tell you all this information. I'm not going to tell you where you are. He very much glosses also over the ages.
Yes.
He hints at like, oh yeah, no, the older brother of like Tony or whatever. He's like in his late teens. We're younger than him, but I'm also older than my sister. So I actually went over to Google and had to Google it because I couldn't figure it out. And supposedly he's 12 in the book, 16 in the movie.
I was just going to say, I remember in later books when he starts worrying about his slowed aging, he gives an exact number to try to calculate his own age. But in book 1, they didn't say. But there was one line where he said, oh, back when I was 9. And I was like, okay, you wouldn't say back when I was 9 if it was like, if you were 10. You would have to be like at least 11 if you said that.
Or it's like a couple of the characters, they're talking with the teacher, and it's like there was this word, I can't remember what it is now, I wrote it down, but they're like, yeah, no, I don't know what this word means. I'm like, okay, you're obviously in like before grade 7 now at this point.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't really an uncommon word. Do I have it in my notes?
And I also like the end of the introduction where he's like, it starts where the story really started, in a toilet.
Yes.
I thought that was funny.
Brilliantly random place to put it. I'm like, I'm here for it.
Like that introduction, it started strong and it ended strong. Just like simple, but like, what? What?
What did you think about like the middle part introduction though? Because I felt like there was one point where it made me cringe a little bit when he started saying like, this book isn't like other books because it's a real story, and I just got like nice, other girls vibes.
The other girls, the nice guy vibe. I feel that. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. I hear you there. I hear you. Maybe a little bit trying too hard.
For a second, I honestly thought it was written by a kid, much like Aragon was. And I actually went to Google it going, no, this guy was in his 40s pretending to write like a kid. And it's kind of a very weird juxtaposition. That's the word I wanted.
Yeah.
I have big words today.
Maybe it's because I was literally like 10 when I read it. But I always imagined it taking place in the eastern US because that's where I'm from. Oh, see, I always imagined it taking place in the UK. Like, even when I was a kid. I don't know why. I think it's because of his name. Darren Shan, I like it. He's an Irish name, so
my mental image figured in town.
Like, nice guy narrator. But I actually thought like it reads like a kid to me. Like I definitely I think I wrote that somewhere in my notes while I was reading. Like it feels like authentic boys being boys in middle school.
Yeah.
Like
Lots of
the banter.
exclamation marks.
So many.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
we'll get to the writing style. Okay, let's jump into I guess our next. Are we? I mean, that we kind of covered the introduction, the hook, getting pulled in.
Oh yeah.
I thought we could just jump right into the vampire archetype. I mean, that's a little bit jumping ahead in the story, but we don't have to go chronologically. This is a spoiler review.
Ah, good.
Because I mean, it takes a while into the story before we even get introduced to the vampire, and I actually remember there being more information about it in the first book, but there's not a lot of information about the vampires. I googled some of this stuff, like what happens later in the Cirque du Freak series, because I mean I couldn't remember, but not a lot of this was given in the actual book of how vampires work in this one.
Well, I even I left an actual page of like all the vampire tropes that were used, and it's like they're not covering it yet. Oh, it's covered in the next one.
Yeah.
I remember this now, and I'm like, damn it.
I think maybe it's because of the movie or the bind up. I almost remember books 1 and 2 as like one book.
Yeah.
So.
And they were so easily digestible because they're so small. It's like everything just kind of just bleeds together in this cohesive consciousness.
Yeah, that's definitely true. Okay, a few notable things about the vampires were, well, how Steve even discovered the fact that Crepsley. I kept saying Creepsley because I think that's how I pronounced it as a kid, but in the audiobook they pronounced it Crepsley. So
I'm like, oh, is that how it?
Yeah, I pronounced it wrong, but that's just, I guess, kid problems. So Steve discovers that Mr. Crepsley, was a vampire from a painting in a book that he had seen. And then, confronts him.
Where the hell did this kid get this book? Because it seems just so randomly obscure. And, like, you know, your local library as, like, an 8-year-old is, like, kids are only allowed, at least here anyway, you're only allowed in this side of the library. So, I don't know. I kind of thought that was kind of neat, but weird.
You know, like, as a kid, I thought, like, oh, that's totally legit. Just, I don't know, just...
Yeah, makes sense.
And as an adult, I also think, like, oh, I mean, if he happened to have that particular book, I mean, it makes sense. Maybe it's is it more far-fetched than finding a blue dragon egg? Or a blue rock?
Not really, no.
Yeah, but I guess, like, I don't know, he's also looking at it from the audience and, like, supposed to be focusing on the spider. I don't know, like, from a distance, I at least wouldn't recognize someone from a photo, but then again, I struggle to recognize people in general, so...
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I kind of buy that a little bit. Okay, I'm trying to think of what they actually showed, because, like, I'm trying not to spoil, like, the rest of the series. So I'm trying to focus on what was given. About the... What is the word I'm looking for? Their process of turning vampires, and the idea of full vampires and half vampires. That at least was introduced, and the idea of a vampire's assistant, which we'll get to in the problematic themes section.
Yeah, I have some opinions about the turning process.
So they said full vampires age 1/10 of a human life cycle, and half vampires 1/5. So for every
easy math,
every 5 years they age 1 year. So, and they turn by doing the blood against blood on the fingers.
The weird finger thing.
Yeah, they have the long nails, slicing the fingers, and a blood transfusion thingy.
And apparently it's exhausting because, like, Crepsley's all like, like, okay. I'm concerned.
Yes, and these vampires do not have fangs. No, they just have sharp nails. Crepsley does sleep in a coffin. Okay, we know. I know later in the series they go into more about, like, the daytime, nighttime sleeping situations, but in this one, sleeping in a coffin during the day, real classy.
Also, I think it was mentioned how he can move really fast.
Yeah, I was just going to say that. The super speed.
The strength.
Strength, yeah, I think that was also mentioned or shown.
Telepathy.
Telepathy was shown.
the healing
I was
saliva.
confused about the telepathy thing, because, like, how come the kid has it?
Oh my gosh. I forgot to add that as one of the speaking points. Oh,
yeah.
my gosh. It was a
Yeah.
big issue I had in the story when I was reading it.
Yeah, the whole part with Orca, I'm like, wait. I remember specifically going, there are some many points. I have a note here where it's some of the stuff was premeditated by what we're gonna call right now outside forces, because the outside forces are not revealed in this book. And I'm wondering if there's some sort of connection as to if that's why he has telepathy.
Yeah. Well, what really bothered me with the telepathy thing with Madame Octa was that it's just Steve's guess. It's just his like hypothesis that that's how she's controlled. There's no proof.
I'm gonna focus really hard.
Yeah, there was no proof that would work. And then he tries it and it works, but it was like, oh yeah, that's the hypothesis, and then they just go along with it as if it was fact. And that really bothered me.
I feel like that's a case of the unreliable narrator just like, yeah, no, it's totally working.
What is Anya saying? I found the narrator voice a bit trying too hard to sound like a kid at times. I read the German translation, but I'm not sure my son or younger daughter will love it. I definitely wanted to talk about the writing style later, because I had a few thoughts about it too. I was going to say, it technically, when you look it up, it classifies it as YA, but this is definitely middle grade. It's just, I think the marketing terms were not the same in 2000 as they are now. So, but it's definitely middle grade. The spider stuff was blah for me. If I was real nasty, I'd ask my mom to read it, and she'd probably die because she hates spiders. In real life, I hate spiders, but I like reading creepy stuff. So.
That was the spider stuff. More so with Darren working with the spider, less with Crepsley working with it. Because like you kind of are getting into the freak show, and it's like you're watching the freak show, and that's fine. But then you're watching the kid do it, and I'm just like, this is how you get dead. Like, no, thank you.
There's a lot more stakes when it's. I don't know why I didn't put that as a section of discussion of just talking about the spider. I should have put spider and vampires. Not like spiders are really an archetype, but you know what I'm saying. Yeah. It's definitely a lot more stakes when Darren has the spider, because he's an amateur and it's in his room and it could kill him and kill his family.
Yeah. One false move. Dinner.
And doesn't he like just leave her in the box for like days and hours at a time? Like,
yep.
Okay, that really feels like a middle school boy though. That does seem like what they would do. Got this one of a kind spider just in a cage in my room.
Fine. Under a bunch of laundry, but with making sure there's enough space for her to breathe.
I fed her a bunch of random crap. See what she likes.
Apparently the spider really likes pizza.
This is so random. But I did think it was kind of clever when it was like him playing the flute. Like, Mom, never open the door when I'm playing my flute. Like,
yeah, I'm sorry, but no, I don't think any parent would be like, definitely, dear, no problem. It's like,
I found
keep
that
your door
so funny. I mean, it was a good cover. Like, hey, I'm self-conscious of playing my flute in front of people. So if you hear the flute, don't come in.
Yeah.
His sister didn't get the memo on that one, unfortunately.
No. I actually barged in. Yes, you are your little sister.
Totally forgot about like the dynamic between him and his sister. Like, I guess I totally forgot about that even being part of the plot. I also didn't even put as one of the discussion topics like the freak show and all the different acts of the freak show. I'm not that prepared, but I guess we could just talk about whatever.
Yeah.
So I put character expectations, heroes, and villains. Because I think we play a lot of... Oh, sorry, I have to Anya's comment.
That's exactly what I mean.
Yeah, we were on the same page all with that one. This is what happens when adults read things for kids.
Yep. Oh, God.
I'm going to compose myself. Okay, character and heroes... Or no, characters, heroes and villains. and just expectations. Because one thing that I found really compelling about this was sort of like the differences between Darren and Steve. And that Darren is almost meant to come off as just sort of the plain, boring, basic kid, like unassuming, apparently 12 years old kid. But underneath the Darren is kind of a freaky with his weird like spiders and critters obsession. So like on the outside, I think Darren looks really boring. But inside, he's a freak. He's a freak.
Yeah. Well, it's like you think it's like, okay, you have two kids. They're gonna go on adventures, and then the freak show is gonna show up, and the villains are gonna be in the freak show. That's kind of like the connotation.
Yes.
But then it's as you're reading, you realize no, the kids are dumb and they're assholes. Pardon my language. And the Krebsley did nothing wrong. I sorry.
Oh, okay. We're gonna have some discourse. I wrote in my notes while I was reading, like, okay, I actually like Steve because I did not like Steve like when I was a kid reading this, but like as an adult, I love the scene where Steve is like to the teacher, like, "No, sir, we would never go to an establishment like that. We're going. We're definitely going."
Yeah, it's like it's gonna happen, right? Yeah, it's gonna. I honestly feel for Steve so much because it's like just the subtext behind, like, you know, he's always fighting with his mom, he's always angry, he's always doing all these things. This screams on a pedestal of the troubled child trope, and it's like you kind of feel for the kid but at the same time he's also a little bit of a shart. So
as a kid, like, Steve went way over my head, all that nuance with his character, and I just thought, oh, he's, you know, just bossy, show it off, evil. I just really dismissed him, and as an adult, I liked his character.
Yeah,
Yeah. I definitely preferred him to the main character. I did not like the main character.
main character was a weirdo.
Well, that's one thing I actually wanted to talking about like the expectations of a hero, because in the introduction, Darren is really saying like, this isn't a story. This is real life. Bad things happen. You know, it's not like in the movies. It's not like other kids. But then Darren definitely has a little bit of special sauce on him, especially in the scene where the flyer is falling, and like he just magically had the intuition to catch it.
It's like something told me to do this. It's just something there. It's like,
yeah, and I was like, you totally contradicted what you said in the intro, where this was like real life and magic doesn't happen, because that was very a chosen one moment.
Yep. But it's like, it's also kind of weird because it's like he's made to be that chosen one character, but then he doesn't really have the hero's journey. He's just stumbling through the situation and then goes, "Oh, this thing is happening. I'm gonna fix it by doing something totally just ill-conceived and probably stealing from a vampire. Always a great idea, kids. Try that at home." And then it's like, well, you know, in order to do this, I'm going to, you know, it's going to be fine. I'm just going to force the situation. And then there are consequences to forcing the situation.
Well, I mean, you can't say Darren is passive. I mean, that was a pretty ballsy move to be like, I want that spider. I'm going to steal it. I don't care. Like,
Yep. And then
I'm amazed he managed that though. Like, because there were all of these other people in the room. Like, he just walked by and got the spider and left again. I don't know. I felt like that was too easy. But
Oh, it was. It was like, look at me. I've got splinters in my socks as I'm sneaking down. There is pain involved, but I'm going to get out without making so much of a squeak. I have had splinters in my feet. You make sounds.
to be fair, it is a little bit of a testament to the fact that Krebsley needs an assistant, because he needs somebody watching his shit. I mean,
yes, it's true.
yeah, but what about the other people in the room?
He just passed by all the sleeping people. It's just like, and the dog. Okay, he passed by the wolf man. Werewolves by nature have the sense of. Yeah, no, he should have been wolf kibble.
I didn't put it, like I said, on the topic list, but do we want to talk about the freak show acts, or do we want to talk about that when we talk about the horror?
On the freak show, I'm not sure if this relates to the acts, but
Mm-hmm.
the way the teacher warned them not to go and how they went anyway, and also the conversation he had with his mum about freak shows, I thought would be interesting to talk about.
I agree,
So
Marta.
how he doesn't seem to think that freaks are real people, like when his mum said, like, oh, how would you like it if you were put in a cage? And he just goes, I'm not a freak. And, like, that wasn't the point.
It's like,
I got really annoyed at him for that.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
that's true though, because like I said before, like we know that Darren, he looks normal, but on the inside he is a freak. He's a freaky, freaky spider boy.
it was like I was actually waiting for the moment in the books where the town goes to, chase the freaks out of town, because I think that happened in the movie. And so I was waiting for it to happen in the
Oh.
book, but then it didn't happen. I could also be thinking of a different movie. Who the hell knows?
Well, I was actually really glad that when they find the flyer in school, that the teacher gave a little bit of history about real freak shows and how exploitative they could be and abusive. And I thought, okay, that was really good. You can't write a book about freak shows and not talk about real freak shows.
The
I
fact
mean,
of it, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I thought the warning was really good. I just thought the fact that they just completely ignore the warning without addressing the morale. Like, I know they're teenage boys, but, like, come on.
Yeah. Yeah.
The taboo was, I think, making it more appealing.
It's like, this seems like something really fun to do. Don't go in that alley, kids. That alley is full of drugs, and I want to see the drugs.
Yeah, well, I think part of it was because we know that Steve likes, like horror stuff, and that they said like Wolfman, Snake Boy. Like I think those were the attraction drawing in Steve, and when they said Madame Octa the Spider was drawing in Darren. So I think there was some specific things tailored to those two on the flyer that was
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes
drawing
sense.
them in. What else did I want to talk about the heroes and villains? I don't know. I don't really want to get fully into my Crepsley opinions until we get to the other section.
Hey, yeah, that's fair. I will hold back my Crepsley opinions.
But one other character that I totally forgot about being in this book or having so much dialogue in this book was Mr. Tall, the owner of the freak show.
Yeah.
And I did not remember this at all. Like, he knows all this information about the boys, and I'm like, I have no memory of this at all. Is this like his superpower to read minds or something? I don't even remember.
See, I have theories to that too, but those theories are like later down in the series. I'm pretty sure. So it's like I'm not sure if I should say them now.
Okay. I hear you. Yeah, so I think, that's kind of it, and just a little bit of the twist of you would think the vampire is supposed to be the villain, and he kind of is a villain, and he's kind of not a villain.
He's just an ass, and it's fun.
Yeah. And the idea of, the boys sort of getting pitted against each other in a way where they kind of almost come into the book together as a unit, and by the end, their friendship is so... I forgot actually that it ended how it ended. Like, I thought it ended of them going to the freak show and like getting settled in and being like, now we're at the freak show. Goodbye, good night.
Yeah.
But it
But no,
doesn't.
it
That doesn't
gets-
happen until book 2. So it's like, oh crap, just ending right here. Okay.
Yep.
Okay, let's move on to the horror genre tone and writing style, because this was shelved as horror. I mean, I guess you could also argue it's paranormal, but because it's middle grade, it's not really scary, but it's definitely spooky and weird.
Yeah.
So that I think we could also talk about, the tone and the writing style and sort of the decision. I think there's a lot of pros and cons to having Darren as the first person narrator.
Yeah.
That play into this one. So.
Well, I don't know if you guys noticed, but it's like I was getting a like serious underwriter feeling, because there wasn't like a super ton of description or flower or just visuals. It really felt like it was more less than let's say Aragon, for example.
Yeah, I put a note in while I was reading notes, like, was scared, felt scared. Like, so many times Darren just tells us he's scared, and it's like, there's no showing of it. So it's like, me as the reader, I don't feel scared at all in those moments. Like,
Yeah. Usually followed by an exclamation mark.
Yep. Yep. But I feel like if they tried to go for the more visual and visceral, saying instead of the felts and the like he felt, it wouldn't feel like he's recounting the story so much as the story is now being told. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's I think the first person narrator is such a double-edged sword because you really get Darren like the everyman or the every boy, normal guy, but at the same time he's just a kid and his worldview and his vocabulary is not there to explain things. Yeah, in a way that makes it like imagine this in third person, like how beautiful the freak show could have been and the atmosphere. Like, I feel like I'm just filling in the blanks with my imagination a lot more than what was given on the page.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
But...
yeah, I think I drifted off a bit during the freak show, actually, because I found the writing just so repetitive. It was like, oh, here's another person. This was scary. Next person. They did this. Exclamation mark.
I actually totally agree with you, Marta. Like, I was so looking forward to going back to the Cirque. Like, I was so ready to jump back into that nostalgia, and I was like, oh, it's kind of boring. And I would actually argue there's only 3 acts that are actually scary. Wolfman, Snake Boy, and Madame Octa and Krebsley. The rest are almost like just oddities, not scary comedy even almost.
Yeah.
I agree. I feel like the Wolfsman and Krebsley were the only... I think I barely remember the Snake Boy, and I just finished it yesterday.
Yeah, he was the encore. They ended the show, and I wrote him, and I was like, what? Where's the Snake Boy? Like, where was the Snake Boy? Like, because he's my favorite character. So I was like, what? He wasn't there. Well, I said that in our last stream. I was like, oh, Evervon, that's my favorite character. He doesn't even get a name in this one. Wait, you don't even find out his name. He's just the Snake Boy.
Yep, because all of the Cirque du Freak stuff happens in the Vampire's Assistant or later. I can't remember where the Cirque shows up.
Yeah, it pops in and out of the series. But yeah, that was disappointing.
Danny?
Yeah, I was a bit confused by that, actually, because I know it's the title of the book. But, like, it barely appears.
Yeah.
Yeah, agreed.
And then Mr. Krebsley makes it sound like he's just ditched the circus altogether now, so it didn't sound to me like it was gonna come back. So
yeah, it's like I separated myself, and I'm not part of the Cirque anymore. So
yeah, exactly. So like, what's it?
None of that got explained. Like, none of it. Like, there's so much that's not explained. Like, even we talked about the vampire archetype and how vampires work was very not well explained. The Cirque wasn't that well explained. Danny is saying, how could you barely remember Snake Boy? He's my favorite. He's also my favorite, Danny. You have excellent taste, obviously.
I also forgot he existed, I'm afraid.
Yep. I mean, I only remember him because, like, I remember the movie. And then I remember, because
I hate how they did him in the movie.
He plays so, like, just saying that and then going back to the books, he plays such a big part in that moment in the book series. That's like, oh yeah, no, I remember he exists. So now my brain is going back to the book going, yeah, no, you're important. I like you. Screw the movie. Yeah. The movie makes me angry.
Well, like, as a kid, I was so obsessed with this book, and this was like early days of the internet back then. I was definitely like on the fan sites where there was like cool fan art of all the performers. Like, I know that must still exist on the web somewhere, all that stuff.
Oh, most definitely.
Before the movie came out. I think the movie came out in 2012. No, 2009. 2009.
Yeah, I remember being so excited. I'm like, my favorite book series is getting a movie. What the hell is this crap?
Oh, what a disappointment. Yeah, such a disappointment. Yeah, okay. So I don't know. A lot of it didn't feel that horror because it didn't feel that scary. Oh, well, there's one
it is
scene.
For kids, but...
Yeah, that's true. But there was one scene that I remember being so scary as a kid reading it, and that was on the football/soccer pitch when he accidentally sucks his friend's blood. I remember that being so disgustingly creepy as a kid. And as an adult, I was like, oh, that was it?
Reading that as an adult, I cringed so hard. I'm just like, oh dear God, here we go. All right.
Yeah, he got away with it surprisingly well, but
nobody freaked out. Like, nobody. Like, not even the kid. He's like, you would expect the guy to go, "What are you doing?" He's like, "What are you doing?" It was like, no. Everyone's like, he's very funny. Like,
Oh, that old Darren up to his shenanigans.
yeah, like, what the?
Just starts sucking some kid's blood. Funny prank.
It's like,
Can you imagine
where,
these days?
where are the teachers? Because like most schools have like during recess they had the teacher supervisor looking over the hill, going, "There's nothing. I was disturbed this time for all different reasons." Oh.
Okay, so I was so nervous about reading the series because I knew that I was going to have to confront some nostalgia bias with some problematic things when reading this. Because I think as a child, I didn't think anything of the fact that Darren just goes off with Crepsley and Crepsley chooses Darren to be his assistant. But as an adult, I'm like, whoa, this is some creepy grooming, kidnapping, power dynamic, messed up shit. Like, this is messed up.
I think like the whole third act of the first book is just like, wait, what?
It's like Crepsley almost gets like an uncomfortable infatuation with Darren, which I obviously know going later on in the book, like they don't have that relationship. But as an adult reading it, it's like, oh, it rubs me.
Yeah.
Oh, I got all the creepies from that.
Yeah. It's definitely.
Also, like, because I feel like from the start, like, he could have just stolen the spider bag. Like, none of the ending of the book had to happen.
Yeah, you're right. He could have.
It's almost like he's like, oh, like, here's my theory behind all of this nonsense, and it's only going to stick to this book. Is Crepsley knew about the spider because they talk about how vampires have supreme hearing, or like better hearing than normal, because when he gets out of the grave, it's like, oh yeah, no, I can hear things a lot. This is kind of neat. And he's only a half vampire, right? So I think Crepsley heard him coming, was like, I wonder what's gonna happen with this kid. And all right, we're just like almost like a cold detachment. It was like just curiosity of what's gonna happen.
He probably thought that the spider was gonna kill him, like right away, instantly.
Like, this isn't really going to be my problem. This kid winds up dead because he gets bitten by a weird spider. We're already gone before anything happens. Oh, so this kid's actually performing with this. I'm intrigued. All right, cool. Let's just like it's almost like he just wants to see how this plays out a little bit.
But at the same time, it felt like he wanted to play out that way. Like, as soon as he stole the spider, it's like, oh, this would make a good assistant. Let me just wait outside his window until someone gets injured badly and I have some blackmailing thing.
Yeah, it seems really perverted when you think about it. Like,
yeah, like he didn't have to admit to any of that, and it would have been less creepy. If he's just like, yeah, no, I was paying attention, I was curious, I wanted to see what happens, and that would be fine. It's like, no, I wanted to see what kind of assistant you'd be. No.
And to be honest, I also feel like when Crepsley was explaining to Darren, like, hey, you're going to become my assistant, he didn't really disclose everything. Because Darren was almost still under the impression that he could live out his life with his family and just be Crepsley's assistant, like, on the side. Yeah, it's like, no. He didn't really make it clear, like, you have to come say goodbye to everybody, you have to die, like, he didn't tell him all this. Like, the consent wasn't exactly 100% transparent about what the job entailed.
Yeah. It's like, you're just going to have to do this or your friend's going to die. So, choose wisely.
Yeah, he really blackmailed him into it.
Yeah, but in the same time, though, Darren blackmailed Crepsley with, even though that was kind of a moot point because Crepsley probably knew the entire time, it's like, I'm going to blackmail a vampire because that sounds like a really good idea.
But yeah, because Crepsley, like, tries to justify himself, like, oh, not all vampires are bad, like, I don't have to kill people, I can just, like, drink a bit of blood and stuff. Like, I'm not actually a bad guy, but then, like, if he was really a good guy, he wouldn't have let him take the spider.
Yeah, no, nothing.
Like,
is so
someone was gonna get hurt, and he knew it, and he let it happen.
Yes.
Well, honestly, if Krebsley was a good guy, for him, like, time is a different concept. He could have waited if Darren was like the assistant for him. He could have waited until Darren was an adult to turn him. Like, if time is so, a different concept for a vampire, it's nothing. Would have been waiting those, how many years would have been? Well, consent in the UK is different, but you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
he could have waited a few years. It would have been a drop in the bucket for him to wait until Darren could fully understand that decision. But he didn't.
Yeah.
He decided to take him as a 12-year-old boy.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean. Yeah.
Also, like, he didn't want to turn Steve, was his name? I'm sorry, really bad names. He didn't want to turn him because, like, oh, we're not supposed to do that to children, but then he had no qualms about Darren.
Well, because Steve was evil. There was something about him that was just evil.
But even before that, like, when Steve originally asked, like, he was much more hesitant and, like, giving him all sorts of excuses, like, no, you're too young for this, I can't do that.
Yeah, he was rational at the beginning, and then he almost like blamed Steve. Like, Steve put the idea in my head of having an assistant, which is also really messed up.
Yeah, it's. Yeah. I mean, to be fair, I feel like if you had this option, this kid is supposedly going to be this evilest, most evil dude on the face of the planet. So that's why you don't want to make him a vampire. So you don't want to give him all these extra powers. Why go for the assistant angle anyway? Because you could just let Steve die and all your problems would be solved.
Yeah, you're right. And then, like, save him and take his best friend. It was just like, okay, I understand, plot reasons, but also, like, it didn't make a lot of sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that was definitely a big... I knew going into it that this was going to be problematic, but...
Yep.
Yeah, because he virtually kidnaps Darren.
Yeah.
So it really felt like that. Yes, because I feel like when I read it as a kid, it was like, this is just a necessary evil of the situation.
Yeah.
But, like, then reading it as an adult, I was like, oh no, he straight up kidnapped that boy. Like...
Yeah.
And, like, seeing the trauma, like, that his mom had to go through, like, feeling guilty about Steve, one, like, she was in already such a traumatic space from that happening under her roof, and then, Darren dying, like...
Oh, yeah.
I felt so bad for his mom in this one that I had never felt when I read that as a kid. I didn't care about that.
Yeah, no, that was definitely
the way
messed up.
that he died as well, like, they didn't make it explicit in the book, but I think to the parents it probably would have felt a lot like suicide.
Yes,
just because
you're
of the
right.
way of, like, their last night together and, like, the way he went to say goodnight and they had
Yes.
this talk. Like, it very much felt like a goodbye the way he was writing it. So, like, that would be so traumatic for the parents.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Like, and they do totally gloss over it because it's from Darren's perspective, so you can't assume somebody else's character based on what the first person. And it's just like, no, the parents, because there's like the couple lines where it's like, I know something's up. Is he okay? Yeah. So it's like, that the thought is bubbling in there, but you don't get that. My kid just committed suicide. You don't get that because it's not their perspective, which is kind of.
Yeah, you guys are so right. If this was written in third person,
my heart
it would be
like
completely different tonally, because Darren is kind of almost happy about it or just accepting this is his life now. Yeah. In the ways that children do. So the reader doesn't think of anything. But if you thought, like, well, obviously us as adult readers are thinking like that, but, like, this would be a very different book written in a different point of view.
Yeah.
Part of me wants
also, like, the scene where his dad started crying, like, I was crying.
Gosh. Oh my gosh.
My
I could not with that
everything.
scene.
Like, I am 100% a hardcore daddy's girl. So my brain went there for like 5 seconds. And I'm like, we're skimming past this. I'm like, no, because I'm a very visual, like, I see everything through a camera lens when it comes to writing. So it's like, you see it and I'm like, no, we're going back to, no thanks. Digging bodies, corpses, graves. Watching him dig, it's fine. Yeah, no, that broke my heart for like 5 seconds.
Yeah, it was definitely a trip reliving this childhood favorite, I'll say that.
Yeah.
Plot definitely got in the way of common sense a bit. LOL.
Just a smidge. Just
Yeah.
a smidge. It's like vampires could have just taken care of the kids, stopped them from getting the spider, just made him go away, put him to sleep, because they mentioned the hypnotic gas in the first one, I think. Like,
Yes, this was so sad and absolutely cruel. Saying this as a parent, yeah, like I never saw that perspective as a child reading it because parents are mean. Who cares about them?
yep.
But like reading this as an adult, like Darren had a nice family. Like,
Yeah.
Like the life. Sister that was not a brat child. Parents who
Actually
were kind
kept
of
his
dope.
secrets.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
sister actually kept the secret. I have sibling cousins. That stuff doesn't happen. Hey mom, do you know what brother did? Do you know what brother did today? Do you know what brother did today? Like,
yeah, in the contrast to Steve's family, like I said, I didn't feel any empathy or anything towards Steve when I read this as a kid. But as an adult, I'm like, dang, like.
yeah,
Steve, like, it would have made sense why he wanted to escape his life. Like, he has real motives to want to go on the run and be a vampire's assistant.
yeah.
And to just be told straight up, like, you are evil to the core, like,
And
Yeah.
then for his friend to just reject him like that? Like,
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, I hated Steve when I read this as a kid. And as an adult, I'm like, Steve is totally justified. Like, Steve, what did he do? He was like a little bit of a teacher's pet, a little bit of a shit, but like, I don't know, he came from a kind of a neglected situation and had a fascination with horror and creepy things. Well, I mean, I feel like his passion with like monsters and like books and movies was very different than like Darren's actual like letting spiders loose in his room creepy obsession.
Yeah.
They were like two different sides of creepy. Like, you know, Steve was like socially acceptable, like creepy as a hobby, and Darren was just like weird.
I mean, I do find it mildly disconcerting that this 11 to like 10 to 12-year-old boy is like, I know you're a vampire and I'm gonna hunt and kill you, and hey, now my best friend's a vampire and I'm gonna kill them. Like, I'm gonna be a vampire hunter at the age of 12.
Well, to be fair, that was some pretty traumatic shit to go through. Like,
Well, yeah, not denying his trauma, but at the same time, it's like, out of your league. Out
okay,
of...
that's true. Like, I would have been like peeing my pants out of fear. That's why I wasn't the protagonist, even though it was a true story of my life as well. They just changed the names.
Yep.
Wait, do I have any other discussion topics? Oh yes, themes. Loyalty, revenge, and destiny. Bum bum bum.
Dun, 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 dun. Yeah. Yeah.
I put destiny on there because I know that it becomes a theme of the series. But like I said, I never finished the series, so I don't exactly know. But when they put the word destiny in here, I was like, oh, it like stood out to me. Like when you see
Yeah.
the title of something, I was like, oh, this is foreshadowing for the entire series right now. Like,
Yeah. Well, even like the moments where every time he says something drew me to do this because for no other reason than something drew me to do this, it's like it's definitely very heavy Destiny themed, and it's like later on you learn more about what that all meant. And in the movie, they take the Destiny hammer and they hit you over the head because they introduce a character that's like so early in the story, in the movie, that is not even, I mean, technically it is the first 3 books, so technically it would have come up anyway, but he's not introduced until like super later on, and they kind of just like glaze past it a little bit. So I think,
yeah, because the first book is really a lot of his family life and him at school.
Yeah.
Like, it's really like the setup, or what's like the beat and the beat sheet. Like, yeah, the setup, the intro, the status
Yeah.
quo of the life. Like, it is very much a first book in the series. Like, you know, we don't get a lot of vampire, we don't get that much freak show, and we don't get all that, you know, paranormal adventure, really. It's really just the introduction to this cast of characters. And not even all the characters, you just get some of
Yeah.
them.
there's one very, very important character that they don't even mention in the first book that they foreshadow so heavily if you read it. And that's why I'm like trying really hard to keep my mouth shut.
Yeah, I also think, yeah, like I said, loyalty and revenge. Those were two other themes that I felt like were coming up a lot. Especially the friendship dynamics between the two boys. And I don't know, I really like that idea of the theme of sort of friendship and revenge and, yeah, loyalty. And because in a way, Darren, in his mind, is doing everything for Steve. Like,
Yes.
in his mind, but from Steve's perspective, he's been really betrayed by Darren. So it's,
Yeah.
I don't know. I actually
like-
really like that.
It's like the buddy bond between them. It's like they would go to the end for each other. And then you hit that moment in the Cirque where Darren sees what's happening with Steve and all the stuff that comes after that, where it's like that thread of we would go to the end together is just completely shattered, and how both characters are kind of coming to terms with the loss of that connection. Which is, I know I'm like so reading into a book with barely any detail, but that's what I got from that.
No, I think it's true. I think that Darren also feels betrayed when Steve stays over and confronts Krebsley and wants to be turned into a vampire, and that he doesn't tell Darren that, and that Darren has to overhear that. And the fact that Darren is so scared he runs home. Like, I would do the same
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
It's like it's almost like your friend is now a completely different person, and that is a very weird thing to deal with as a child.
Because, like, what would Darren had done if the vampire had said yes? Like, he would have gone back to Steve's to wait, then Steve doesn't turn up, and he's stuck with explaining to the parents that he went on this freak show and they didn't come back together, and, like,
Which
that's
is
a
also
terrible
messed up.
situation to put him in.
Yeah,
I
it's
never
like-
even thought about that. What if he actually turned him? Darren would have just been standing there like, this is awkward.
Yeah, and then you have to live with your friend just vanishing, because let's say hypothetically that Darren didn't go back, that he just left and did what Steve told him, went back to his
Exactly,
place,
yeah.
and then his friend never came home. That would have been so. I mean, I'm here for it. And I almost wrote Project Incarnate with the same beat, the sister never coming home. Changed my mind because that was too much for me to deal with. But at the same time, I'm like, I would be here to read that story. Like, that would be a completely different story.
Yeah. I'm so glad that we chose to read this again, because
It was really fun.
Yes. Very, 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 very.
despite the problematic elements and, you know, some of the story stuff going on, there's a reason it was so beloved, because, yeah, I think it does play a lot on some of those, yeah, fun things: friendship, revenge, loyalty, and playing around with vampire archetype in a cool way. Oh, that's another thing I forgot to mention about the vampire archetype. These are not beautiful vampires, which
No.
is definitely a trope you see very prevalently with vampires. They're usually very beautiful to be, like, compelling. And these vampires are kind of ugly, or just
They're-
average.
Yeah, they're just folk. To have an archetype that's like beautiful, immortal, graceful, elegant, all those things you see from like Anne Rice and some of the parts of Dracula, all of it. And it's like no, in the Darren Shan universe is like they are not immortal. They have some of the grace and the strength, the speed, and all that stuff. And then it's like, but they do age, so you get everything that comes with age, and just all of that, and yeah, they're all just folk.
Yeah, because, like, Krebsley, he has a scar. Like, I don't remember if they explain how he got that scar or not.
Not yet.
I know that there is also a Krebsley origin series
Yes,
I saw when I was doing research for this, but
Yep, I saw the same thing. I'm like, I want to know what happened with Krebsley and it's because I like as grooming and creepiness aside, I like that cold, detached, like, this is just what we're gonna be dealing with, and I'm amused by your existence type of character a little bit.
because, like, I remember in the series really liking Krebsley as a character, so I'm going to have to, you know, read a few more books in to give him a full analysis. But the idea to turn this boy into a vampire, not your best moment, man.
Nope. Nope. Like I'm with you all up until the vampire assistant part.
Yeah. Like, yeah, and the fact that Darren had such a loving family. Oh.
Yeah.
No.
And that's like mostly what I mean by the Crepsley did nothing wrong. It excludes the groomy nature of now you're going to be my assistant, because it's like I don't like the kid, so no, I'm not going to turn you. I'm going to let this kid play with the spider because why not? He stole it. He should deal with the consequences. Like, he doesn't actively, like other vampires you would meet, going, hey, you stole from me and I'm a vampire? Like,
Yeah, like, who are you, you kid? Like, but instead he has to be weird.
yeah.
Yeah. Like, I feel like, he's not evil because he didn't go and kill him for stealing the spider, but he also, like, he knew that the spider was gonna kill someone eventually. He didn't know Darren would be able to control it. Like, he's basically killing him indirectly by letting him have the spider.
Yeah, he could have killed all of Darren's family or friends at school. Like,
Yeah.
there could have been a big mass spider
Yup.
killing spree.
I feel like he's a little bit more gray toward the darker shades of evil. A little bit.
Or was he waiting in the wings though some of the time, like spying on him, and we just
He was
don't
watching
hear
him the whole
about
time.
that? Okay.
There was it was kind of implied that no, I totally knew it because I've been watching.
I
'Cause
think
I
he said,
can.
like, he's been watching since the first day. Like,
Yeah,
he came.
Okay.
Like, why didn't he
I
come
thought that he
back?
said that, but I wasn't sure like exactly how that worked, because I know like the vampires can be out during the day, which they didn't really discuss here. But it's not like all day bright sunlight kind of vampires. But I think they can still be out in the day.
Well, I think
I
think it's the half because the whole point is like I need you to do things for me during the day. Conversation that they had. So I think it's just the half vampires can hang out during the day.
Yeah, that's the thing. They did
But
not
it's like they don't
discuss
explore
it
this
fully.
yet.
But they did. What did I say? Blah. I can't remember what I was going to say. Where it's... Oh, but I have also another thing about the half vampire and the vampire's assistant. Isn't this kind of like child slavery? Like, I don't know, like child labor? Like when he's talking about what you're going to do. He's like, you're going to be my assistant. You're going to carry my crap around for me. And you're going to do what I tell you and you're not going to complain. Like,
Yeah.
that doesn't sound like a very good
And then
gig.
he's basically, like, imprisoning him by turning him. Like, he can't physically run away. Like, he... Also, the fact that he didn't warn him. Like, when he ran away, like, he
like,
knew
you're
that
gonna
he
eat
would
your
hurt
friends.
someone. Like,
Yep.
he said that he got off lightly and he was lucky not to have killed anyone.
Right back.
Go ahead.
So why didn't you stop him?
Yeah, you're right. He didn't even explain how like the blood drinking works. Like, how much blood do you need? When do you need blood? Like, he explained nothing of what Darren's life as a vampire was going to be. It was...
It's just
Yeah.
like, here you go, you're a vampire. Sure, you can run away if you want, but you'll come back because I haven't taught you how to be a vampire yet.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Like, consent and manipulation. Like, that is such a manipulation tactic. Like, oh, you're free to go, but I have all the power. Like... Ugh.
Yeah.
That...
And like this, at least as far as they've said so far, no way to turn back. So like, he's stuck now, like, there's nothing he can do about it.
Yeah. Yeah, and like even Darren said, that's so sad though, at first when Darren was turned, when he was like, oh, I could still be like a professional footballer, I'll just look young, but I'm gonna be so fast and everything. And like, the fact that Crepsley didn't tell him like, no, you can't do that, is like he's already starting to get his hopes up about something else.
Yeah.
I don't know, that was just sad to read that, and like, oh. Yeah, so I gotta definitely say there was some problematic things in book one.
Yep. Very,
But
very, very.
I get that, we need to set up the series, the fact that there's like, a middle grade kid to be a vampire assistant to go on this whatever fun horror shenanigans. Vampires and freak shows and all that jazz.
Yeah, like, I haven't read the rest of the series, so I'm just like, I don't like what they're doing to him, but like, I'm sure it gets really good later, but,
I hope
like, the
it's
book
as
was
good
really
as I
good and
remember.
interesting, just...
Yeah. I feel like the movie did the right thing by aging him up to 16 And like when I was doing the research, is like the Darren Shan, the author, was like, yeah, I've always wanted to write a children's book, and it was like this kind of story that you're trying to tell shouldn't really be for children. I know, like, we're, it was written in like the early 2000s, and the way we think of things now is completely different. But it's like this type of story should not have been for a 12-year-old. A little bit.
I think they needed to tweak some of those plot points about the weird child grooming, consent manipulation. Because the thing is, like, as a writer, I feel like the three of us could, like, right now brainstorm session to make a way that would be much less creepy. Like, I feel like it would be so easy to work out of that issue and make it not problematic. So, but again, it was a different time, and I feel like Darren Shan, as a writer, didn't have those things in mind. These conversations weren't being had back then.
No. And it's like, this is also like, a man in his late 40s is writing this book in the early 2000s. It's like just this whole weird, I don't know.
Yeah. I tried to look up more information about his books and publishing journey, and some of it was a little bit, because apparently he wrote under other pen names, so some of his other works are no longer available or can't be found, but this was his big mega hit. So is the Cirque du Freak. That's, I guess, his biggest series, because he has a series on zombies and a series on demons as well. Yeah. So I've read the first book in his demon series, but
yeah, supposedly those are adults. And I'm like, you should have just made Cirque an adult thing as well.
Well, the thing is, like I said, this was marketed YA, but like the categories weren't really defined in a way.
No, they weren't.
But yeah, if, like you said, if he would have just been 16 in the book, this wouldn't have been a big deal. Because isn't 16 the age of the consent in the UK?
I honestly don't know.
Google.
It's something like that, though. So, because I know in the US, 18. So I think in
I've
the
only
UK
been living here since I was 18, so like, I don't know.
I think it might be a little bit lower. I could be wrong, but
you're right.
Either way, 16 would be a more appropriate age for Darren to make a decision like that. And Creepsley should have been more transparent of what being a vampire was and what his role as an assistant was. And it shouldn't have just been slave.
Yeah.
Because I feel like in the series later on, like, there is like almost like a parent-mentor relationship between them.
Yeah, the relationship is so much less creepy.
Yeah. I remember it being like, Creepsley being like a stand-up good guy. But this book does not paint him in that light at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm struggling to see him in that light. But yeah, I want to read book 2 and find out. But at the minute, I don't like him.
Hold on. So, do we have any closing thoughts on Cirque du Freak? Or just want to, I don't know, chat about anything else?
I enjoyed it, even like without the nostalgia factor. I did get drawn into it and like enjoyed the reading experience, but yeah, obviously there's all of these problems with it. Yeah. In general, good book.
I love writing. I love reading the Cirque du Freak, and it's like pointing out the problematic aspects kind of makes my heart just a little sad, because I'm just like, but these are my comfy blankies from my childhood.
I'm gonna be honest, it made me sad too, but that was part of what I wanted with doing this book club, like not to just be blindly loyal because of nostalgia,
Yeah. Oh, definitely.
Because, I mean, that's the thing, like, in publishing today, like, everybody is so aware of things, to trying to be inclusive and be good, and I think, that's great, and these novels that were really popular and weren't held to today's standard, I mean, they should be able to sort of face the scrutiny. So,
yeah.
Because it's not like, okay, this is, like I said, published in the year 2000, so it's like that's 20 years ago, or just over 20 years ago. But, I mean, kidnapping kids was not cool then either.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like because like I just ate these books just up when I was a kid, and like as I said, family Christmas. Instead of spending time with my family, I was reading the books because that was my Christmas present. It was totally awesome. But I feel like a lot of when we were kids, especially 90s babies, your parents weren't really like, hey, what are you reading? Hey, like what are you taking in?
I think they were just happy we were reading.
Yeah. Well, 'cause it's like you read any of the stuff that was like, hell, I started reading. I haven't finished it, but Interview with the Vampire was one of the things that I had my hands on when I was a kid, and my parents didn't ask. They're like, you know what reality is, you know what fiction is, so as long as you understand the line of what's right and wrong, you can have whatever you want. And I feel like that was kind of a lot of how a lot of the kids in my class were raised. Where now it's like, hey, what are you reading? Hey, what are you reading? Like,
yeah, a change in parenting style for sure, a cultural shift.
Yeah, and it's it's good in some aspects, and in some aspects it's a little. We do what we can.
That's for sure. Anya is saying it was a fast read, and some parts were interesting too. I did not like everything though. I would still recommend this book to my kids. That actually brings up a good point because before we started reading this, I was looking for a box set to be like, oh, this could be like something that I would pass on to, like my niece or my future kids, perhaps, like to introduce them to this. And now I'm like, would I let my kids read this? I mean, I don't have kids, my hypothetical kids.
Yep.
I think I would also be like a helicopter parent and be like, yeah, well, we have to have a conversation, like a caveat there.
Yeah, that would definitely be one of like if I were to have kids, this would definitely be one of those like sit down sort of like, hey, this is what like not so much the helicopter, but like, hey, that's what you're reading. Like, do you understand? Like, I would want to have that dialogue. It's like, do you understand what you're reading? Sort of thing, like kind of like what we're doing now, but with the kid.
I'm going to be 100% honest. If I was a teenager or a middle schooler, and somebody came to me and was like, "I'll turn you into a vampire. You'll be a vampire assistant," I would have I would also just willingly gone with.
Yep.
So it's like I definitely did not learn any life lessons about this because I did as a kid. I didn't feel sorry for Darren's parents at all.
Yeah.
As an adult, I did.
Definitely.
Ay. Okay, so for August, I'd made that a ticker instead of a banner. For August, we will be reading The Hunger Games. I did not plan anything for July for the book club because of Camp Nano.
That's fair.
And because this is book club for writers, I didn't want to burden anybody with something. And most of these books are series. So, yeah, we're just still trying to figure out the dynamics of how that's going to work. But I think The Hunger Games, it being such a beast of a fandom, I think, when you talk about like YA books and fandoms, Hunger Games is going to be on everybody's list. So I think giving people over a whole month in advance to prep for this, will maybe get some more passengers on board. Yes, we're doing all train references.
I actually never read The Hunger Games, and I've only seen the first movie.
Well, this is gonna be fun.
This is after Cirque du Freak and Twilight, y'all are gonna get to witness how much I haven't read, because I have a fandom, I have a niche that it's fangs. It's vampires. Like, vampires are most of my books, with an occasional witch and occasional werewolf. So anything out of that, I just never got into.
Oh, The Hunger Games is such an influence trend starter for the dystopian genre. I mean, Anya's saying my eldest rolls her eyes when I ever talk like that. And I understand as I read so much weird stuff as a teenager. Anya's like the expectation of being a parent versus reality. Your kid's laughing in your face. Sure, Mom.
I feel like I have one of those weirder childhoods because like my dad's a very philosophical man, So it's like we watch True Blood together, except for some of the scary parts that, or not scary isn't scary. The intense parts.
I don't want to cover Marta's face.
He would. It would be like, no, we're just gonna, because we would watch it. We wouldn't watch it live, so we would always fast forward through all the sex, and all that stuff.
Oh, for real?
Yeah. And then it was like, this is not something I'm comfortable watching with my daughter, but we're gonna talk about the show after, and we always did that with everything.
Oh, okay. I have to now share also a story from my childhood. I'm going to age myself a little bit. But when Titanic came out on VHS, it was like a big box set VHS, if you guys remember Titanic being like the biggest movie.
Yeah.
My whole family sat down and watched it together, like as an event at home of the box set. And when it was like the scene of her like getting drawn like naked on the couch, like me and my brothers obviously start laughing and look away. My mom was like, "You look. That's the human body. There's nothing to laugh about. There's nothing disgusting here. This is real life." I was like, "Oh, Mom, why are you doing this to us?"
That was another one of the ones that it was. I remember sitting on the couch with my dad with the little the car VCR rewinder thing, and it was just like we both cried like babies, and then we talked about the movie after.
Aww.
I think
That sounds
Anna
so
is
nice.
gasping at the fact that you've never read The Hunger Games.
I say this all the time. The list of stuff that I have not read, watched, or heard is higher than the list of the stuff that I have.
No, I'm with you. There's a reason I wanted to start this book club, because I hear people talk about these books, and it's like, I never read Mortal Instruments, or what's that? Cinder Crest. Those Lunar Chronicles. I've never read those. I never read A Series of Unfortunate Events. I never read so many of these books. That's why I was like, I gotta start a book club. Maybe some other people.
Hey, I'm here for it, because that's the only reason I'm gonna read any of this stuff. Probably.
I read The Hunger Games when they first came out, so this will be quite a revisit for me. Ooh. Yeah. I'm excited to revisit The Hunger Games since I read that prequel one of President Snow. My daughter loves The Hunger Games. Finally, we can talk about books. I've only seen the movies yet. Oh, people are applauding my mom. Yeah, she's a special one. Oh, also your father's getting a shout out, Crystal.
Yeah, my dad is a legend.
Sounds like it. Especially when you said like that you were like a daddy's girl, and like the part with Darren's dad crying.
I'm not. This is like a minor Crystal lore, but I cannot handle anything happening to a father character in any movie or TV show, because my brain's like, I don't know if I could be able to handle that if I were my dad. Mm-hmm. Like 100%. It's actually quite sad and kind of pathetic.
Oh. I guess we should wrap up. I think we talked about everything there was to talk about. Just as a quick non-book club thing, are you guys participating in Nano?
Sort of. We're doing the sprints together.
Yep.
And I will be doing a vlog in July that I will probably do like semi-nano themed, but I'm not actually setting a goal, so like, does that count? I don't know. Ish. I'm just writing my usual stuff.
Okay.
Calling it nano.
Exactly. That's what I thought, but I wasn't exactly sure.
I'm working on more Project Incarnate, and it's all just revisions as my critique partner chapters come in. I've got like 10. I'm up to 10 chapters to work on now. So that's what I'll be doing. And I'm gonna try to get at least one chapter a day, give or take. But it's actually specific now, and I'm still getting used to trying to do writer vlogs. It's doing actual like the stuff that you guys like do, and like Katie Ann and Wallace do. It's just like I'm not used. I'm still trying to get myself into that, because it's like, what do I talk about? I don't know how to talk about my writing journey. How do I do this? How do words?
I just watched Miranda. I just watched her vlog earlier today. I was like, oh, it's so good. Like, she talks so effortlessly to the camera. Like, I don't know. Like, I feel like so struggle busing when I'm vlogging. But yeah, but I kind of agree with Marta. Like, I like just participating in camp just for the, not maybe setting particular camp goals, but just the community.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, definitely.
Like, it's fun, but like, I'm already working on enough projects as it is. I'm not starting a new one.
Yeah, no.
I think I just use Nano for me to like be consistent because consistency and schedule are not my strong suits. Danny says, I'm like that with twins, Crystal. Anything that happens to a twin character hits me so hard. I have twins in one of my stories, and I always think of Danny. I was like, I need Danny to be a beta reader when I finish this. I was like, I need her to look at this. Anya says, I will also write my usual stuff and try to watch as many writing streams as possible. Oh, yeah, that's what's fun about Nano, just the community stuff.
Oh, yeah. I want to watch everybody's videos. I have to.
You're right, Marta. We should plug the fact that we are going to be streaming.
Yes.
Plus Danny.
Yeah.
Danny's here also.
Although I do think that everyone that's in the chat is already subscribed to the four of us, so like, they already know.
Marta, you're totally underestimating the replay value. Everybody is going to want to watch Cirque du Freak discussion videos, and they're going to be searching it, and the algorithm is just going to take this, and it's going to explode, and now we're internet sensations.
It's actually funny you say that. In the latest video, since I mentioned the Nostalgia Book Club, I made sure like everybody's links were down there. And when I went to pulled the stream up on my other monitor, I just YouTubed Nostalgia Book Club, and my video that I released today popped up. I'm like, it's technically not. I just put a link in there. What? So it's possible.
Oh, that is so cute. Yeah.
Aww.
No, it's going to be like all in the headlines tomorrow. Like Darren Shan canceled child grooming in his books.
Oh, I would die. That would be hilarious. Oh my goodness.
So yeah, our first stream is going to be on Marta's channel on Thursday at time zones.
I think it's the same time
It's
slot
7
it is
p.m.
now.
here.
Right?
Yeah, okay. The same time as this one started, 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I know time zones. I'm setting a low word count goal, like same amount I would probably write in July anyways.
Yeah. Same.
Remember us when you're famous. And you're also going to be famous when your book blows up. We're
Yeah,
all
we're all
going
gonna
to
be famous. We're gonna be like we're going up together, and it's like we're all just gonna be like, hey, we're all awesome.
No, but it's like true. Like when I just read, Alexa Dunn's new book, The Ivies, in the back, her like acknowledgements, and she like calls out her friends, like like Lainey and like other author tubers and other writers that and I'm like, we're gonna be that on each other's books one day.
Oh yeah.
Aww.
I think I've probably said this before because I'm a giant emotional nerd, but I don't think Project Incarnate would be anywhere it is now without the AuthorTube community. I don't think I would be where I'm at without the AuthorTube community. Like, no, definitely, 100%.
It's a special place, isn't it?
Oh yeah.
It brought us all together. We could. Well, I don't know how to do a heart, but if we were smart enough, we could. We're not that smart. Oh, shoot.
There we go. Nope. Other way. There. Nope.
Almost. Derpy heart.
It's the mic in the way. That's the problem.
I'm looking forward to your streams. We'll be there on Thursday. Whoop whoop. Oh, Anna's crying. Me too. My breath would not exist.
All the
I think
emotions.
that is a good place to cap it. Thank you, everybody who showed up to watch. Thank you so much to all my co-hosts and everybody who's been on this crazy train ride. Do we want to do a quick introduction or just peace out?
Just do a grape.
Do a grape, yeah. I'm Violet. This is Crystal. That's Marta. Everything's linked down below. You already know who we are because we are internet famous.